All right, thank you for tuning in. It's been a pleasure to be able to have the opportunity to talk to individuals where we can be able to share information and raise awareness about the different types of chemistries that go on in our community, especially when it comes to positive relationships and images in terms of how we at We Care Partners are looking to promote those kinds of activities and relationships that people are really putting into our communities to help make our communities safe and healthy. This individual that I'm about to introduce you to now is pretty well known in a number of different areas. He's an entrepreneur, he's a producer, and he really has been actively involved in doing some incredible things in our community, yet he's been kind of like on the back end of things. And in many instances, you would never really know that he was the one behind the scenes. But now, we're going to have an opportunity to recognize who he is. In this set, we're here with Mr. William Michael Barbee. Mr. Barbee, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Some of the things that most of you who are viewing do know about this gentleman is that he runs an incredible amount of business in our community. One of those businesses is helping people who are disabled with an ambulatory service and a transportation vehicle. If you've ever gotten married, you probably have called them Prestige.
Prestige stores.
Prestige. And the relationship of how you actively got involved with this wasn't something that you wanted to do. It evolved.
Right.
Why don't you share with us your story, your background?
Well, my name is Mike Barbee, William Michael Barbee. I started transportation, I would have to say 27 years ago, to pay for college. I was driving my uncle and some doctors when I worked at East Orange General Hospital around, and I figured I could make money to pay for college, so I started the limousine service around, actually 26 years ago, and it started as Barich and Associates Limousine Service. At the time, I had a partner, Dwayne Richardson, and it was William Barbee, Dwayne Richardson, so we took the bar and the rich and brought together, which is still my email address today at AOL.com, Barich and Associates. So we started Barich and Associates. After a year, I bought them out the partnership, so I kept the limousine service. From the limousine service, working in the hospital, my mentor, Dr. William Howard Griffith, he was a nephrologist at the time, dealing with people with blood diseases, kidney, dialysis. He suggested, he said, Mike, you're in transportation, why don't you start picking up the clients, meaning the patients, since we were taking the doctors, the presidents, the security guards, and so forth. So from there, we started United to Care Medical Transportation Service around 17 years ago. Dr. Griffith, Dr. Clyde Pemberton, Trevor Atherley, and quite a few others bought the old United Presbyterian Hospital. So the name United was birthed out of that concept of me having the transportation contract for transporting those clients. So that's where the name United came from. Two, I had a partner who was a nurse who was funneling business to us, so I made her a partner, so it's Roman numeral 2 Care Medical Transportation Service. So that's how the ambulance service formulated. After a year with her, I bought her out of that partnership. So today we still have the Barich and Associates, which took on the name of Prestige Stores. We have the ambulance service, which is non-emergency stretcher and wheelchair transportation. And around 13 years ago, Don Payne Jr., Choppy, good friend of mine, was working at the commission, Essex Regional Educational Service Commission. And he was like, Mike, you have limos, you have ambulances. Hey, why don't you transport kids? I didn't understand the dynamic. A kid going to school in the limo, car service, what, you know? Or for the matter, you know,
Division, how it really
right, I just
culminated
didn't
to what you were
understand.
doing, right.
And so he broke it down. I believe it was when Reagan was president, and they pushed the initiative, Everyone Deserves an Education. And then when you look around the city and the county, you see these day regional schools.
Right.
The purpose for the ambulance pulling up, because you have kids with multiple sclerosis, you have different ailments that folks have. So,
Right.
you know, they deserve an education as well. So my ambulance service, limousine service came into that effect. And then we formulated the school bus transportation service through United to Care. From there, we saw that the kids have athletic events. And that's how I started the transportation of charter buses
Okay.
So then the charter bus wing came around 12 years ago. So we're one of your strong leading transportation companies. So with the monies I made in transportation, I bought the office building in East Orange, 137 Evergreen Place. From there, bought other stuff and started other businesses,
right.
wanted to give back, started substance abuse, started a foundation.
Substance abuse now is going now.
Yes,
I remember you were talking to me about that.
Yes.
So it's finally become
Yeah,
a mainstay.
Airmed Counseling Services started around 4 years ago.
Okay.
And it was just my way of another way of giving back. And from there we started a grant program as well. So we started Airmed Foundation. So within the first year of registering the business, the foundation, we applied to a federal grant through the Ryan White Extension Act, which provides people with with HIV, with substance abuse counseling.
Yeah, in terms, yeah.
So we were awarded in our first year that we filled out the grant. So God's just been good to me,
yeah,
man.
Absolutely. You know, it's really inspirational that you would use that as a manner of identifying the true fact of that you are being led and you're following in a very positive way. You have also been able to manifest 2 actual bus lines now, right? 2 buses. How many buses do you have?
We have 5 buses.
Okay.
So as far as a line, we don't have a line, particularly if you refer to a line, most people would say a line is picking up in Secaucus and taken to Manhattan on a daily run. No, we have contracts. What we were able to get the contract for is your largest fine dining on the water, which is Spirit Cruises out of Chelsea Piers in New York.
Okay.
We're their exclusive provider of transportation for the past 2 years. We have other Hilton Parsippany. We have other companies that we're the exclusive transporter for their either executive or their corporate work.
Okay. Well, you know, the idea of having the consistency and looking at it, you know, from the relationships of other things that you're now beginning to bridge into when it comes to arts and entertainment, the culmination of your advantage of dealing with it from another perspective came from, I guess, a hobby, right? The film and video and really a whole different trend set of what your businesses are built on is now becoming part of a new lead in your life, and we want to talk about that. But let's discuss right now your book. Okay. Your book came out. If anyone really was able to identify to it, it's Clipped Wings, They Do Fly. It's on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and all of the right ways in which you need to begin to market your products. But it was really an autobiography that turned into some type of story. Share with us exactly what brought that idea on.
Well, the book has been in the making for years. I have another book coming out called Colorblind.
Oh, really? Okay.
But this particular book, Clipped Wings, They Do Fly, is birthed out of the experience of a young African-American boy growing up in the city of Newark during the late 60s and early 70s, and coming through different hardships within the family unit when your father got laid off as a machinist, and what he had to go through providing for 5 heads, 7, counting himself and my mom, and being a provider, and then the stress load that he had and how he acted those things out, and the influence and the impact it had on the dynamics of the children, particularly me, because I wasn't that tough son. I was tough because I was like fighting, but I didn't feel I had to prove it, you know. So I remember as a kid, we're only 1 year apart, and I'm the youngest of the 5. I was always an artist. I always painted, and I drew. And my other brothers, they always knew every football player, but I ran faster, I hit harder.
Okay.
So I loved, sports was natural for me, so I never had to prove it. Okay. So I did things I wanted to do, which was run and paint. So the concept of the book, Clipped Wings, They Do Fly, is semi-autobiographical. And when I say semi-autobiographical, I'm speaking from a perspective. Today I'm this successful businessman. I own 6 companies. I have around 50 employees. I have properties here, 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 you know. But the fact is, this same guy over 20-something years ago had a psychiatrist and a psychologist, and I was in therapy for 2 years. I suffered depression heavily, and even considering today, you know, with the successes, people just look at you, you know, there's a story behind every book that you see, you know, and I believe I represent so many different people from their perspectives at different times, that the story of who I am, William Michael Barbee, whose character in the book is Billy Ray Michaels, which is no more than my name. William for Billy, Ray just to throw you off, and Michaels, which is my middle name. We just added an S to that. So, you know, I talked about my experiences, and actually inside the actual book, there are poems in there. I remember when I was in counseling, I couldn't even paint anymore. And I was a great student at Arts High School.
Okay.
And right after that was when I got into the suicidal depression, probably 3 years after graduating, and then institutionalized for depression. So, you know, my story, not that most folks will ever go to that extreme that I went, but my story in the book is birthed out of a true person who struggled hard with depression. But what I did to tell my truth, because as a business leader and a leader of folk, people are not always ready to hear your truth. And people aren't always prepared, so you have to be accountable for everything that comes out your mouth and or your actions.
Right.
So the best way to tell my story, and I encourage so many other people to tell your stories, tell it through a fictitious character.
Wow.
Take your truths and hide it behind a fictitious environment. Because in the book, it's about a guy with multiple personality disorder who finds himself on trial for a crime he doesn't remember committing. Not that I have multiple personality disorder, because I don't.
Right. But
have I committed a crime?
Right.
No. But if I can tell who this guy is who wanted to take his life, a guy who was institutionalized in a four-wall room, a guy who was cut off in some sense, is still the same guy who's today sitting on your couch.
Right, I understand, and how you equated it and saw a reality behind it.
Sure.
But it is something that brought drama.
Right.
And the drama within it is a story that's being told that some people do go through.
Right.
And looking at it from that context now, the originality of it is something that can be a learned type of a conditioning that individuals who are working to become creative writers can look at it as an advantage towards finding a success in their story. It's really incredible that you would have that kind of a mindset to see it and then find it where there can be a success about it. Taking the book now and putting it into a film. Now, when I first met Mr. Barbee, and Mike, I call you Mike, we were actually working together. I think I was doing some pictures, and I came up to his studio and his office, and he was working on his video. And I'm looking at him like, hey, gee, this is something that I do, and I learned some new tricks to the trade from you. But those tricks to the trade now are going to become part of another model of your entrepreneurial value and what you're going to be doing in your investment. You're going to create this into a movie.
Right.
I recognize that you already got some top names involved with it.
Right.
Explain to us exactly how did that evolve?
Well, if we go back to us knowing each other, we knew, I didn't know Arnett.
My wife.
Through yourself.
That's right. That's right.
I knew her separately because my daycare she worked at.
Exactly.
And I never knew the connection. Then with you, with your political views, that I've always embraced, I just didn't know that what angle you were coming from until I realized. I was like, this man crazy, But I love him. So you and I, we had a history, we just didn't bring it together. Then even recently with Catherine Stanley.
Exactly. Right.
Craig's daughter, who calls me Uncle Mike, who works on my team as well, who I'm proud of. She tells me that your son was at her house and she used to be at yours. And I was like, that's my boy. So we're all interconnected,
really
in so many different facets. But yes, the book. In and of itself is being made into a movie. We already started filming. We started filming 3.5 months ago. Okay. And it's a beautiful story, though.
It is.
And the way that I write, is the way I speak. I've learned from my relatives of old who have long passed, when you tell a story, you want to paint the whole story. So when I do my movie and when I did the screenplay and different parts of it, like we shot 3 months ago, we shot scenes from 1966, 1968, and we took the city of Newark, South 19th Street, where I grew up. I grew up in two areas of Newark, the Weequahic section off of Hobson Street, 137 Hobson Street, and I grew up on 19th Street in the West Side area of South Orange Avenue, 366 South 19th Street. It was important that I go back to my neighborhood, and I went to one that was really hurting, which was 19th Street.
Right.
I went there because in 1980, our house was set on fire. And two of my cousins died in the fire. We lost everything. I remember as a child growing up in the city of Newark, my mom would take us to Livingston to the house and estate sales on Saturday mornings. Then we always came back to the hood. But I remember so much about those experiences. But I remember when our house set on fire, my neighbors gave me clothing and all this other stuff. Salvation Army became our shopping center. The other place down on University Avenue in Newark, Goodwill. We got our clothing and my bed. That's when I learned the value of secondhand stuff. So it was important that even as I do my book, that I go back to my home, because I'm successful before so many people, but come see where I come from. And those same neighbors still live there, and they were able to tell the stories, and we see the vacant lot where I grew up. So we took all of those things in account when putting this movie together. So we filmed and converted the book into the movie. And of course, when you have novels, the book or the screenplay is somewhat different, but it still tells the same story.
Well, you can hear from the background noise. We're here in our studio at the Irvington neighborhood community involvement with the municipal building, and we don't have quite the kind of luxury that you have built in your building. You have a studio that you've built. You're also producing a show in Atlanta. The Atlanta production, you just recently did a airing of one of the shows here by taping it here with many of the cast members that are going to be part of that production. One of those cast members is also going to be one of your producers, Mr. Bill Cobbs.
Correct.
How did you think about the characters to the extent that you would get someone with that kind of caliber of credential?
Well, it's important that my story is viewed with respect. Far too often we see on television the stuff that we have grown up living. We've seen the violence, we've seen the this, seen the that. And for me to tell that kind of story and to bring that character, that element of characters to my production, I really had to be real careful, because I don't want to see the drug dealing. I've seen that. I grew up with it. I don't want to see the boys shooting each other, and there's a place for that too, but I don't want to see it on TV nor be a part of that per se. So when I thought about my characters, I thought about the roles and the careers that some people have had. Like one guy, J.D. Williams, is in the movie. He plays a young, cocky prosecutor. And when you think about J.D. Williams, you're thinking The Wire, you're thinking, Bodie, and you're thinking he's doing all those things. But we're taking his character to a whole nother height.
Really?
So he has a huge responsibility as it pertains to his character in the movie to really give character. And it takes him out of his normal element. Like right now, he's in a play off Broadway. I took Bill Cobbs the other night. We went there to see him perform. I forgot the name of it, but it's about people who are wrongfully accused. And they're institutionalized and incarcerated. So Bill Cobbs, him coming on to the production, just a beautiful man. He has a history and a long, extensive history of performances. I think he's done 168 movies, that we talked about. Presently, he's on the sitcom with Matthew Perry on NBC. that shows weekly. So Bill Cobbs was important for me. He's a mentor. He's a friend. He's a guy who's a silent giant.
Wow.
You know, when you see him, you think he's just so meek and humble, and he is those things. But his strength comes through that. It was strange. Amiri Baraka, who's someone I admire, I've always heard him, you know, tell different stories over the years. And I remember a couple of years ago when Congressman Payne he always used our limo service to bring his celebrities in for his black tie event annually. And I got the chance maybe 3 times to pick up once or twice through Congressman Payne, Danny Glover, the actor. And Mr. Glover and I, we were talking long, and he was telling me all the stuff he was into. And it became a pattern. So whenever different ones came to town, I would call Amiri and Amina on their phone and say, hey, look here. Do you know this person? Do you know that person? I remember when Danny was here. Actually, Danny came one year for Amiri's 75th birthday celebration.
Yeah, I remember that, yeah.
That
right,
we filmed at Wisdom.
Right, you were there.
Yeah. And I took him around, but he wanted to surprise him when he was here for Congressman Payne's function. I said, yo, when was the last time you saw Amiri? He said, man, I got to call that guy. I said, look here, you're going to be at Congressman Payne's thing at 6 o'clock. We got time because we were over in New York at his daughter's house. I said, why don't we surprise Amiri and just show up at his house? So I called Amina, set it up. We surprised Amiri on that same day, on that Sunday morning, showed up at his house. So the same pattern that I've done with Danny and others, Sonia Sanchez, whoever, I've done the same thing with Bill Cobbs. I'm listening to Bill Cobbs say, isn't Amiri Baraka from Newark? Man, I remember Dutchman. I remember this. And listening to Bill Cobbs talk so much about Amiri Baraka, and then listening to Amiri Baraka talk about the career of a Bill Cobbs or somebody, and knowing that they're the same age but they never met, but always respected each other. I did the same surprise as I did with Danny Glover. I did the same by taking Bill last year to his house. And to see that experience of 2 giants, I can't say both were gentle giants, but both the giants come together. And, you know, I took little shots. So my thing is always giving back. So Catherine Stanley, a young playwright herself, producer of a film, Time After Yesterday, her own.
Really? Okay.
Yes. And so I called her up.
Okay.
I said, Catherine, come on. I'm going to introduce you to Bill. I want you to pitch whatever you want to pitch to him, learn whatever, but I'm going to give you 2 hours. So we had her meet us at the Shoe Shine Parlor, and I made sure they had just candid shots. She was telling him all about herself. And then I brought her along, and here it is, her uncle, Congressman Payne.
Right.
Is her uncle, but who went to school with Amiri, but she never met Amiri, and she's a playwright. She's a double major, master's graduate from Columbia, and she doesn't know Amiri Baraka with your family lineage, you know, of such strength.
Right.
So I made sure she was present at Amiri's house as well, so that we could bring generations together, minds together. So I know I didn't talk all around.
No, you know, that's really inspiring. And looking at the idea of how you just meshed in an incredible way of saying how family is really part of the production from relationships.
Sure.
And it broadened a whole characteristic of success in regard to the production that you're doing in Atlanta. The We Are DeKalb production.
You did ask me about that.
Yeah, well, I'm just saying in general, but it was part of the whole conversation, you know. But the reality, again, We Are DeKalb. You have now gotten involved with a number of other individuals. Womack from the entertainment program, in business
Strictly
Entertainment. Talk a little bit about that relationship.
Well, Womack I've known forever. I mean, Womack comes from the same family of Womacks, Bishop Donald Womack, when they were fire baptized years ago with Reverend Nathaniel Simmons and St. Paul Sounds of Praise. And then in the 70s, Dr. Womack was on 10th Street and the old theater, 10th Street and Springfield Avenue, across from the supermarket. And then he moved up to Christian Academy up there in Bloomfield and Franklin Avenue under his son, Shamak Womack. So that's the whole family of Womacks. We were the
And
Williams.
Bobby, you don't forget Bobby.
Well, I think that's their distant cousin, the
Yeah,
singer.
yeah.
But my family was the Williams family, Zion Holy Church in Newark and Camden. So they all fellowship. They were all men of Newark. Nathaniel Simmons, Bishop Womack, and Bishop Williams. Bishop Claude Campbell and Vauxhall. They were all buddies.
Okay.
Bishop Chambly over at Promised
All right,
Land. They
yeah.
all were friends.
Okay.
And different ones have passed on off the scene. So that relationship was always there. We were raised in the church together, so we were raised more like cousins.
I see.
So when James Womack was doing his thing in California, managing the young girl or female artist Joe and some other acts, I've always watched them from afar. I was always a student of the game. I've never been the guy in the forefront, like it's even uncomfortable for me sitting in your studio before a camera, because my job has always been behind the camera. So I've always watched the game itself, understood it, and just started developing. James is the one who introduced me to the people down, or introduced my name to the people down in Atlanta with We Are DeKalb. There was a buzz of my name down there, more so my production company, Prestige Media Productions. We're filming in Tennessee, we're filming in Atlanta, and we're filming in New Jersey. We're filming part of the movie at the Tennessee State Penitentiary.
Okay.
And we're filming in Atlanta as well. So my name was circulating. Found some stuff on William Michael Barbee. I think they went online. James was the middle person that forged that. So James came in more as a publicist for Prestige Media Productions. They brought me down for a show, an hour-long show, 2 months ago, and interviewed me about business, the success of business, the struggles in business, so forth, my sustainability, 20-something years, and blah, blah, blah. So I said, well, great opportunity. Let's promote this movie, the book, and the new projects coming. And they saw, similar to when I came in, suggestions about studio setup, da-da-da-da. And they said, wow, so you do. So I said, yes, I do some of this stuff. So next thing you know, they offered me a spot to be executive producer. I said, well, these folks think I got some money. I'm broke, But I just wanted to know more about what it entailed.
Okay.
And so me becoming executive producer for 4 episodes of We Are DeKalb television, I needed to have creative control, because me just giving money just don't make sense, unless we have a lot of control with that. So we were able to do that, come on as executive producer for 4 episodes. In the process of coming on as executive producer, I wanted to promote my movie. So we originally scheduled for the host, Heidi Fuller, the creator and founder of the show, of We Are DeKalb, and her assistant, who has her own company, CEME Travels and Concierge Service, Faith White. We had their tickets for them to fly up here. My company, we build anything, so we built the set, and we did all of this stuff to set up the studio up here so that they can come up here and host my cast.
Right, okay.
But since there was a conflict, we had a Christmas show that we were filming in Atlanta at the same time for We Are DeKalb television, and Bill Cobb's schedule with coming from California, LA, out to New Jersey conflict. We decided, let's keep it separate. You stay down there. And then I got a playwright up here who has done work with us before, Sheba Jordan, who you're aware of. She hosted she stood in as guest host for the show We Are DeKalb that we filmed at East Orange General Hospital. Reason why we chose East Orange General Hospital to film We Are DeKalb episode is, one, I'm on the board at East Orange General Hospital. I've been on the board there for maybe 13 years. Years ago, I used to work there, but now I've been on the board, the governing body there. So since we're filming a hospital scene there, I thought it's only fitting that my cast do a humanitarian effort in their outlook. I remember my mentor and uncle and godfather, Ben Jones. He's an artist, fine artist. Ben said, whatever you do in life, do it with purpose. So I don't only want to film my episode and promote my book and movie, but my cast needs to bring attention.